I'm Lawrence.
And I'm Erin, and this is
Beyond the Journal.
Wow, every time?
Every time.
Wow. Okay, so this is Beyond the Journal, and here we talk about New York City basketball, community, culture, love, life.
Everything from the government to the grocery store.
That's right, and there's only one place you can hear it.
Beyond the Journal.
Wow, really?
I like that one better.
Okay, can we just start the show, please?
Guess who's back? Beyond the Journal is way back. It's Lawrence, your co-host. And there's another host here.
Yes, I am here. Y'all know my name by now.
Her name's Erin. And we are
There it
here.
is.
We are here with a very, very special guest. This young man has volunteered to be a guest on this show, no matter how intense it gets. Ladies and gentlemen, Officer T.J. Jones.
Thank you.
I think it's really important that we talk about how we all met, though, because I truly believe in the power of the universe. I really, really believe it. And I believe when you speak it into existence and you manifest something, it can come to fruition. Your mind is a very, very powerful tool. And Lawrence was very specific in speaking out loud. I want to speak to an officer on this show. It has weighed heavily on him recently. We've had multiple conversations about it. And I said, we were talking about it before that show, our very last episode. We talked about it before the show. We talked about police and Black Lives Matter and all of the brutality and violence and death that has happened recently, right? We leave the show, people. We go to the lobby, and Lawrence happens to say hello to this man who is, we now know, TJ.
T.J. Jones.
And he asked about our episode. Our podcast. We asked about his. We have a little conversation, and Lawrence says out loud, "I want to have a police officer on the show." And TJ goes,
I'll do it.
TJ goes,
I have look no further.
Right. And so, do you see, my friends, I talk to y'all about this all the time, and this is a real live example that the universe put you, and I really do believe that you two have so much in common, and it was such a perfect connection for the two of you. So it's bigger than this podcast. It's bigger than this episode. It's way bigger than all of that. So I had to throw it in there because I believe so strongly in it. And I think also the universe really was gifting this to Lawrence because it has been such a passion of his and on his mind and heart so much lately. So I think this is just a gift in general. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, yeah, man.
Lawrence and I spoke briefly when he asked me to be a part of the show. And even in that, 10-minute conversation, it could have went hours.
Oh, yeah.
The energy was good.
Yeah.
I felt like I've known him for so long. The energy was good.
And hopefully we will know each other for so long.
Yes.
Just in having our conversations on the phone, texting back and forth, I get great energy and I get great vibes. And the interesting thing is I recently had a conversation, and in that conversation, I don't remember the exact words I used, but it was something like, I've never met a good cop, right? And I asked the person I was speaking to, I said, how many good cops do you know? And she was like, I don't know, but I can't assume that all cops are bad. And I was like, well, I've never met a good one. And then literally the day after, I meet you.
Oh, wow.
Right? So the universe does work in very strange ways.
Wow.
And there was no salt when I had to eat my words. That was very interesting. So with no further ado, thank you again for being on the show.
Thank you.
I think your presence here is a very important move in the right direction. And as a disclaimer, I'd like to say that this show's purpose is we're not here for me to bash you. I'm not here to grill you. I'm here to bridge a gap that no one else seems to be bridging, right? And I know that's what Erin wants. Erin always wants us all to work together. And as much animosity as I have towards the police force, I am here as a vehicle for those who do not have a chance to have these types of conversations. So if you don't mind, I would love to ask you some questions. Our guests have some questions. I know Erin has some questions, but I also want this to be a flowing conversation. And for those of you out there who don't know, we are going to make sure we don't disclose any information that makes any of TJ's fellow officers unsafe or
TJ.
uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Or TJ.
Or TJ.
Yes.
Well, who cares about TJ?
But I do want to say something in regards to what you just said that about me feeling some type of way. It's just a position.
Okay.
This is not who I am. I'm a human outside of this. You know, I'm a student of life. And I remember when I first became a police officer, I asked a black woman, because we have so many negative encounters as a black man with police, that I asked a black woman, what is it like being a police officer? And off the back, she asked me, don't ask me nothing else. It's just a job.
Wow.
It's just a job. Go do your job. You go home to your family. Do your job, go home to your family. This is what she's told me. So I said, okay, no problem. And every single day, I do my job, go home to my family. I don't take it personal. I'm a regular guy.
Okay, I like that, and I want to believe that so badly, and I'm happy for you that you're able to like separate the two. But there's like bigger issues there, right? So how do you disconnect from that? Because you're a black man and a police officer.
Yes.
So do you think that? Talk to me about that a little bit. Like
It's difficult at times.
yeah.
And what I mean by difficult at times is because I understand the community and I understand where I was raised and how I
Right.
grew up.
Right.
And my fellow officers may not. I'm actually a training officer where I am. And I train the new guys that come out, the police academy.
Wow.
And one of my first questions to them is, how often did you ever come down to the city before you became a police officer? And most of them say never or hardly ever.
Right.
That's a big difference.
That's a huge problem.
It is.
It's a huge
It
problem.
is. Because I think to be an effective police officer, you need to know your community.
Yes.
Yep.
You need to understand your community.
Yeah.
You need to know the people that's in your community.
Yes.
And those three things, knowing those three things will make you a good and effective officer. Growing up in the city, I've never once knocked anybody for things that I once did myself. I respect it. I understand it.
Right.
Yeah.
This is the culture. This is how we raised. This is how we grew up. I grew up 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning rolling dice against the deli gate. I never stopped anybody for rolling dice.
Right.
Because that's what I did. I had no other place to go.
Right.
We have the street corners.
That's right. So what made you become a police officer?
I got a big heart. So I became a police officer to help people.
Wow.
You know, this job is not about arresting people and summoning people. Whether a woman is getting beat up, I'm gonna help that woman by arresting that man. You know, that's the help. Whether it's a man getting assaulted as well, I'm gonna help that man. Whether it's an old lady going across the street, I'm gonna help her with her groceries. That's the type of officer that I am. And I try to motivate and inspire the younger officers to be just like me. But everybody's not gonna do the things that you do or how you do it. But I try to influence some type of change.
Do you see or do you feel any pressure to do something other than just help the people? I mean, in terms of like protecting property, adhering to protocol, things of that nature, is there pressure there for you to do something other than just help the people? Do you find yourself in situations where you're like, man, I wish I could help, but I got to go do this job?
No. The crazy thing is that I'm an officer where I go above and beyond and I help people. We have department phones where I give out my department number. You need help? Call me. You need help? Call me. I got you. But then you have officers who frown upon that. And that's
Why?
the bad part.
Why? That's my question. Why would they frown upon something like that? Is that not the true definition of the job?
Because everybody comes on a job. Everybody becomes any profession, any position. But we're talking about police officers here. Everybody comes on a job for different reasons. Some people come on the job because of family legacy. Some people come on the job because you got the 20 and out. Some people come on the job because they want to help people. I tell everybody, I don't care if it's your first year, your 10th year, or your 20th year. Always remember why you became a police officer, and that will always keep you grounded. So I know that I became a police officer to help people. So every single day when I go to work and I get dressed, I know that my job that day is to help somebody. And people don't see it that way.
Would you And I'm gonna fire him off.
Yeah,
so
I'm listening.
Please, Erin, jump in at any time because
Yes.
I've got a million questions. Would you find yourself being pressured or getting into trouble for going above and beyond, would you find yourself getting into trouble or feeling pressure for not only going above and beyond, but perhaps stepping on another officer's toes or holding them accountable? There it is.
So I've had that situation before.
Oh.
Yeah, I've had that situation before. I am, like I said before, I'm a human first. There's a certain way that you treat people. What I do affects you. What you do affects me. And we had a situation where once the handcuffs are on, the situation is over. It's over.
We're going to revisit that one, but keep going.
There's no need to do anything else. It's over.
I agree.
And this particular incident, there was a guy who was arrested because he had a gun in handcuffs. Now the guy is pulling away from the officers, and officer gives him 2 to the ribs while he's handcuffed. Do you know that as I stopped that officer, another officer stopped me from stopping that officer?
Wow.
So now we go back to the station, and now me and this other officer are about to get into it.
Of course.
And he's telling me that I'm doing something wrong. Well, I'm telling him that, guess what? This man could have killed the president of the United States. It don't matter what he's arrested for. This man could have killed the president of the United States. If you make an allegation against any officer, they're going to entertain that. And we're all going to get in trouble. And they're going to want to know why I didn't say something. When you apply for a job, it asks you 2 questions. How much money you want to make and where you want to go in a job. It never asks you, do you want to make friends on a job? That's never a part of the questionnaire. So with that being said, I'm going to do what's best for me and my family. I got friends outside of this job as a police officer. I got people that I grew up with, sandbox. I don't need any more friends. I don't need any more friends.
Doesn't that put you at jeopardy, though, in terms of loyalty, in terms of police officers having your back?
No. Everybody says that there is a blue shield, but at the end of the day, remember, it's only for so long because everybody wants to protect themselves. So officers would readily tell on somebody else. I'm going to tell on you. They would.
Okay, I have a question.
Yes.
It's interesting that you're in training, and you said one of the questions that you ask is, have you ever been in the city, spent time in the city? So one thing that we talk about on this podcast a lot is having uncomfortable conversations or difficult conversations, right?
Yes.
And having, the courage to be vulnerable within those conversations. Do you ever engage in conversations about race, like just straight out of the gate with the cadets, or is that what you call them, cadets?
Well,
I don't know what you call them.
Recruits.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Do you ever have conversations like that? Like, is this part of the language as you're beginning your training, or you're coming out of training and you're about to be assigned to wherever you are? Are these conversations being had?
No.
Okay, so that's a problem for me.
No.
I did not expect you to say that.
No.
So that's a problem for me. So one, if that's not happening like overarching, which I think it should, and I think that's part of the reform or rebuilding or whatever, or defunding, or whatever we want to call it, right? But since you're saying you're a human, right?
Yes.
And you said I'm an officer, but I'm also a human, and you're also a black human.
Yes.
So is that something that you feel comfortable having that, bridging that gap, having that conversation with white recruits or even black recruits and anybody? Are you open to that? Is that even receptive? I mean, are people open to receiving that from you?
I will have that conversation, but not off the jump.
Okay.
Because I'm not going to judge anybody.
Okay.
I'm going to allow you to operate and perform your duties as you're supposed to. But when I see you do something out of line, that's when I will address it.
Okay.
When the time is fitting.
Okay.
I will address it then. And me personally, I haven't addressed it. I haven't had to address it, I should say, to any of the newer guys. It's usually the seasoned guys
Got it.
who
Yes.
are do that.
That makes sense to
Yes,
me.
it's usually the seasoned guys, because as an officer, you feel as if I'm a police officer. You can't tell me nothing.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you go to a higher rank, I'm a higher rank than you.
Mm-hmm.
You really can't tell me nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So so officers tend to have this authoritative state of mind
Yes, sir.
where it's, what can you tell me? You can't do anything for me. You can't do.
Yeah,
no,
that's a problem.
you can't do anything for me. You can't do anything to me.
Where
I'm
do
the
you-
boss.
Where do you think that comes from? I have my theory, so I want you to ask. I want you to answer.
Just lack of knowledge about people and just wanting to be dominant. You know, police officer is a male-dominated field.
Yeah.
As men, we all have egos. You know, so like I said, I'm a student of life. I remember talking to my mentor, and he told me several things. You know, never put a man down in front of his family. That's all he asks. Never put a man down in front of his boys. That's the people that he's with every single day. He don't want his boys picking on him.
Mm-hmm.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Allow a person
yeah.
to voice their opinion. No one is ever going to be happy because they got a summons. Woohoo! I got a summons. No one is ever going to be happy that they got arrested. Yes, this is the jury that I wanted. No.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
No one is ever going to be happy with those circumstances. So if a person is upset, you have to allow them to voice their opinion.
Right.
It ain't personal. It's just how they feel. Nobody wants to go to prison. Nobody wants to go to jail. Nobody wants to have to go to court or anything.
How much fear do you go into the job with every day?
Me?
Yeah.
Zero.
What?
Zero.
Stop it. Come
Zero.
on.
What?
Why?
Zero.
Why though? Why? I
Zero.
like that answer.
Zero.
But I want to know why.
Because I control the scene. As an officer, you control the scene.
That's true.
My uniform states a lot
Right.
in itself.
The presence.
Yes. Then after that, the officer takes it to another level
And you're
of respect.
and when you stay in your energy and your alignment and you control yourself, you control the situation.
Yes.
Got
So
it.
then where's everybody's aggression coming from as an officer?
But that's why.
That's individuality.
yeah.
You,
It
That's
doesn't
why.
it doesn't feel that way. It feels more uniform than anything. You know, watching a lot of these police interactions, and I'm not even just talking about the lowlights. I don't want to call them highlights. Not even the lowlights that we see on the news and all over social media, but just watching when they show up to scenes often, the way they speak. You know, there's such bravado and it's an overload of masculinity and it's like I dare you. And it's like, for what? Where is that coming from, right? So that's why I asked you about fear, because here's my theory. And I'll ask you another question to follow up, but here's my theory. The fear that goes into the job comes from a lack of understanding of the people or the communities in which you work, right? So there's that fear and there's that lack of understanding, and it leads to aggression rather than communication.
of course.
Right. So the follow-up question I have for you is, because I understand it to a certain extent, because a lot of these officers, whether they're in control or not, they witness and experience traumas on a regular basis.
Yes.
So what supports are in place for you guys in terms of the traumas?
I am actually also a member of an organization where officers who are down and out and down on their luck, who need assistance from other officers.
Wow.
So if an officer is in a position where they want to commit suicide, they can call the hotline, and myself or somebody else, other volunteering officers would do it. It's volunteering. We don't get paid for that. So we do that out of the kindness of our hearts.
So there's no setup in place. This is just you guys taking the onus.
Yes. But it's
Wow.
within the department. It's in the organization where this is just 1 out of 5. Where if you have financial problems, relationship problems, suicide, death, you grieving, you can speak to somebody.
What about I was just in a shooting.
Oh, off the back.
Yeah.
Off the back, yes, 100%. 100%. Once there's a shooting, you have to go to the hospital, make sure that your health is good, and somebody will automatically talk to you. They take away your guns, everything. Yeah. Yeah,
Interesting.
that's protocol. They got to take your stuff away, and you have to speak to somebody.
So you feel like there's enough support for the police?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Now, you
Now-
can have something in place.
But that
Doesn't mean that they're going to
people-
utilize it.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the
Right.
thing. Doesn't mean they're going to
Well,
utilize it.
okay, so that kind of plays into, and I don't know if you were getting to this point, Lawrence, but like I feel like it's a system. We all live within these systems, right? And the entire police structure is a system that's kind of set up and built to protect those within it. Yes? So everything you're saying, I love to hear, but TJ, to be quite honest with you, I feel like you are very rare.
What? Of course.
Let me ask you guys a question. But let me ask you guys a question.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
If you went to a restaurant and got food poisoning, would you stop going to restaurants?
Yes.
All restaurants?
Oh, no. I'm sorry. I thought you meant that restaurant.
Correct.
That restaurant.
Yeah.
Get what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
So if you translate it to police, I'm not going to deal with that officer. Let me give this officer a try.
Okay, wait, time out. But there's an image attached to that, right? Because now I got food poisoning, right, from that restaurant. I'm not going back there, and I'm telling everybody I know not to go there too.
Yeah.
And then, like, look at what there's been restaurant change that's happened to, and then it happens in multiple locations and whatever, and then it becomes a news story, and then everything, and then they have to do a whole like PR campaign to fix their image and their reputation, right? So it can get out of hand.
It's about the individual. It's about the individual.
So
because
I'm sorry.
no, I'm listening.
It's difficult for me to hear that it's about the individual for a few reasons. The number one reason is the frequency with which we're seeing it now, right? Because we didn't have cameras prior to.
Correct.
And now we're in a day and age where there are cameras on buildings, there are cameras on police officers' persons, and there's cameras in people's possessions, right?
Yes.
So we're witnessing a lot more, and we're witnessing the bad apples more, right? So that's one. Two, we're not seeing enough guys like you be the good apples when the bad apples are taking place, right?
Agreed.
And so there seems to be this mob mentality, or at least that's how we perceive it, because who's going to step in? And we can't do anything. Anything we do is considered disturbing the peace, obstruction of justice, obstruction of justice and resisting arrest, right? So we're just supposed to sit there and take it. And I've seen countless times, and you've seen countless times. I'm sure you've seen the videos. You see, like the incident you described, officers assaulting people who are already cuffed up.
Yes.
We see people who put their guns down be shot. We've seen, and then if anyone goes to resist, break his fall, flinch back, it's resisting arrest, and the assault gets worse, right? And so we see these images, and it's hard to forget these images, and we're seeing them so much. I feel like I've seen food poisoning at mad restaurants. You know what I mean?
I get what you're saying. So one thing about it is that, and this is any field, you are,
Teacher.
you're a teacher,
Yep.
and your profession?
A creative professional,
Okay.
business owner.
Okay. So with that being said, I could read everything about being a teacher. I could read everything about being a business owner, but I'll never know how to do it until I actually do one day in this person's shoes. And that's the same thing that goes for an officer. You never know how to do an officer's job until you work one day in an officer's shoes. In addition to that, we have a procedure where if there's two people and there's one person, you want additional officers. There's no doubt that I could take somebody by myself if I wanted to fight somebody. But to do it the right way, which is not hurt the person, you need the additional assistance.
Okay.
So that's why you have 6-8 officers.
You need 6 officers for one man.
Yes.
Yeah.
But but you don't really see officers outright punching a person and jumping a person like this is the streets. You don't see that. Officers trying to grab the person and try to take them down because there's certain ways that you have to do it where you don't want to hurt the person or you don't want to get in trouble. It's the same thing.
It feels to me like, and this is like my little hippie coming through, but we've talked about this multiple times. But what you just said is really powerful to me personally. You said you really don't understand until you walk a day in someone's shoes.
Correct.
And I really feel like that's such a huge, overarching, powerful message right now. Like, I feel like there's a lot of officers who also haven't walked a day, not even a moment in the shoes of a black man
I would
in
agree,
America,
100%.
right? So I feel like there's this huge disconnect and there's this huge misunderstanding going on. And I feel like really, truly the key to it all is education and compassion and love, of course. I have to throw that in there. But so if we have that disconnect, how do we bridge that gap? Because so I'm like Lawrence just said, you need 6 men to come and arrest me. And you're like, yeah, logically we do, because these are our protocols.
Yes.
And we're trying to protect you. We don't want you to get hurt. So this is why we're showing up like this. That is irritating and agitating and infuriating to this person who is now going to be placed under arrest or whatever's happening.
Yes.
Right? So we already are starting off in a really bad place.
Yes.
We already have a lot of misunderstanding happening. And you also have someone who's now probably fearful because now I see 6 police officers when I'm like, I stole a candy bar.
Yes.
Right? Okay,
Yes.
so why are 6 of you here? Like, what's happening? So now I'm scared. I don't understand why there's 6 of you. So I understand I'm explaining this to you and
No,
you
I
get all
get it, I
this.
get it.
But do you see kind of where I'm headed with this? Like,
Yes.
I think we are we're starting to see a lot of what the issues are. I get that, and I still think there's more to learn. But how do we get through that? How do you show up with 6 people and a fearful man, and how do we do this peacefully and respectfully where we all can respect each other?
Just reputation. That's what it is.
So it's going back to what you first said. Sorry to interrupt you about the community, knowing your community,
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
It's just reputation. I remember dealing with a situation where a lot of cars are getting stolen, and for whatever reason, people leave their cars running unattended with the keys in the car. I have no idea why. It's common.
Really?
It's very, very much so. It's common.
Like they run into the deli or to pick up their food or something?
Yes. And they leave their keys in the car
Really?
running unattended.
I'm not doing that.
And,
I never do that.
I'm not doing that.
and they want us to, you see that,
Okay.
write the person a summons. So I had a particular incident where I was talking to a guy and I told him, you can't do that. Giving him a summons, you can't do that. He's like, this is my car. I could do whatever I want. Listen, you can't do that. I said, you're not going to go to Compton and wear all red. You get what I'm saying? Because you know the demographics there.
Dangerous.
Yeah.
Yes, you know the
Yeah.
demographics there. And you may have never been to Compton,
But
but
you
the
know.
stories that you have heard. So basically going back to what what you said, it's just a reputation of police. Once they see that there are enough outstanding officers, then I think that would kind of shifts people's minds. Because most people don't like the police or for somebody else's encounter, not their own. Most people dislike the police or for somebody else's encounter, not their own. And that causes a lot of friction.
Right.
So I was at the barbershop today, and a couple of my guys from the hood. Shout out to Felix, the barber, by the way. Shout out to Hunt 12th Street. A couple of my guys from the hood were standing on the corner, and I started having a conversation with them. You know, if you could ask an officer a question, what would you ask him? So my man said, I want to know what it is they know that we in the projects should know. Because it seems like they show up and they treat us a certain way, and we don't know how we can avoid these things. We don't know what we're really supposed to do. And it's like, if we had more information to start with, we would move better. So
makes
what
sense.
if right?
makes sense.
So he's like,
Makes a lot
so
of sense.
what are we supposed to know that y'all know when y'all into our neighborhoods?
That's a good question.
Yeah, I agree.
But that goes
That's a
back
good
to
question.
education, and
It
like
does. It
that's
does.
like a community outreach
does.
thing that should be happening. So everybody's on the same page. Like let's come up with some procedures. Let's come up with some protocols so we speak the same language. We aren't speaking the same language right now.
Right.
I got something for you.
Uh-oh.
Because it's funny because I had a similar conversation with somebody where the departments allow ride-along. They still allow ride-along.
Really?
Word?
Yeah, they do.
I was thinking about that when you said it.
They still allow ride-along.
Can we do that?
Yeah, you can. You can.
Can we do it with you or no? We have to.
No, it's certain channels that you have to go through.
Oh, okay.
But you have to go to academy, civilian academy. You have to learn about it, and then you can go out with an officer. But I asked this person, are they willing to do it? And they say, no, I'm not going to do that because it's dangerous. So you're doing it. How do you think we feel as
Yeah.
officers?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And you have to understand that, yes, at any single day, I know that there's a chance that I can get into a gun battle every single day I put this uniform on.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean I want to.
Right.
And when there's a gun at me, I'm going to feel totally different. So that's a really good question that he asked.
Yeah.
But are people, the civilians, willing to ride along with police to actually understand its duties and performances?
I like that question. I like that response. I don't think there are many that would. First of all, there's the obvious. There are those who have the wall up.
Oh,
towards the
100%.
police. And then there are those who are fearful. And I think people are reluctant to let go of their perceptions anyway because they have so much proof.
Yeah, I want to speak on that too, because a lot of people are reluctant, because even when I asked the woman when I first came, how was it being a black man? I'm from a small neighborhood, and I've asked people, how is it being an officer? And they told me it's okay, it's just a job. I was always in fear of what my friends would think about me as a police officer. I was always in fear of
But
what
you
they
did it
think.
anyway.
I did it anyway. Because I got to do it. It's my life to live.
I like
You're
that.
right.
I like
And the craziest part is that when my friends found out, they all congratulated me.
Wow.
Oh,
That's
I love that.
They congratulated me. And
Yes.
and then I had some of them even pull me aside and was like, you know what? I congratulate you. I wish I would have did it myself.
Wow.
I wish I
Good
would have
for
did it myself.
you.
So you really can't go off of perception. I hate that word.
Yep.
Perception. You really can't go off of perception, or you can't live in fear. You have to do what's best for you. And at the end of the day, I know that as an officer, what I do affects others.
Right.
So I want to make sure that my peers are safe and I'm safe as well.
Do you think then that it would benefit the communities, especially the community we're speaking about, to have, like Erin set it up perfectly, to have the information, right? To have these conversations. And I'm thinking of an educational setup, but also a conversation between members of the community and the police, where not only can they ask y'all questions, but y'all can tell them, listen, these are the policies we're enforcing. This is what we expect to see when we walk in. This is what we're looking for. This is what we don't want to see. This is how we're going to respond. Where's that? Can we get that?
That right there is only going to come from an individual.
Why?
That's only going to come from an individual officer
Why wouldn't you
wants to
Okay,
extend
But why wouldn't
themselves.
you want that? Like, not you per
No,
se, right?
no, I
But why
understand.
wouldn't you want that? Because what I'm trying to do is what you're trying to do. We all trying to avoid the issues,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if we're trying to avoid the issue, I'm all about front loading rather than showing up on the back end when things have already happened and doing things after the fact. Let's front load it. Let's at least share the information, and you will do with it what you will. We can open that door. You're free to walk in or you're free to stay out. But at least open the door. I feel like the door is closed, and when police show up, it's so much like you should have known better, and since you don't, shut up. That's it.
Yes.
And there's no conversation on the scene, so why don't we front load that conversation?
That's not a good answer. As far they tell you in court too that that's not a good answer. Ignorance of the law. It's kind of the thing, like, you should know that you're not
You
supposed
have
to
to
do
take
this.
initiative
watch
to
this.
educate yourself.
Sorry, but watch this.
Yes.
Do police officers need to know all the laws before they get a job?
No.
So then,
No.
Then how am I supposed to
why,
know that
why
law?
am I, as a citizen,
Yes.
supposed to know all of these laws and you're not?
Okay.
That in and of itself lopsides the authority.
Yes.
I don't have full autonomy because you show up on the scene, right? But you show up on the scene and you could, not you personally,
Yeah,
but
yeah, no,
you
I
could,
understand.
You could most likely be ignorant to the law. And I've seen cases, and I've been in cases where I've been more knowledgeable about the law, and I have to adhere to the officer's orders because the officer doesn't know better, right? But yet the onus is on me as a citizen. And these are the guys with the badges and the guns.
Yes.
I feel like that's problematic. Right?
It is. Let me ask you a question, though,
Yes.
TJ. So if we are trying to bridge that gap, right? And so I'm just making this up. Say Lawrence and I are like, we're in this mission. We feel strongly about this, right? So wherever we're in Harlem, where he was just at in the barbershop, right? So we go to that neighborhood and we announce that we're going to do like a meet and greet with police. I'm making this up as I go
I'm
right
listening.
now. So, like, is that something, like, if I reached out to the local precinct, let's pretend you're the local precinct.
Yes.
I reach out to you and I go, listen, we're on a mission and we want to create a community and we want to bridge this gap and we want the police to come in and we want to ask questions and we want to know our rights better and we want to know how to react and act and all these things, right? Because we want to make this a better community. Would they show up?
There is community board meetings where they're not heard about because it's in small neighborhoods and in community. It's not citywide, it's not statewide. It's in small neighborhood within the community. And they do have community officers who will adhere to any civilian's needs and wants and try to make the relationship between the two much better than what it is.
So it's there. We need to take the initiative.
Yes.
We need to start educating.
Yes, but
Okay.
you have to to see change. You got to be a part of the change.
That's right.
And most people say, "I don't want an officer to do this. I don't want an officer to do that. Officers shouldn't do this. Officers shouldn't do that." Yet you're not at any of the community board meetings to express how you feel.
Right.
You're ready and willing to tell your peers, but not a person who's in a position to change it. Talk to an officer or talk to one of the community leaders and say, "Hey, this is what's going on in my neighborhood." You telling your friend
Doesn't help anybody.
doesn't help anybody, because what is your friend going to do? Your friend is just as upset as you are.
That's how I feel when kids talk to kids.
Yeah.
I feel the same way.
So you need to be able to speak to somebody in that position.
Right.
Yes. You have to be a part of the change.
Right.
I myself would consider myself part of the change. You know, just like
Yes.
Tupac said, he might not change the world, but he's going to spark somebody.
Listen, now we just became best friends. You're quoting Tupac. Forget it. We're done. You and I are now best friends. And I like you anyway because you're a human being who
Yes,
is like
yes.
showing. Like, we need more people like you, TJ, who
appreciate
show
that.
up as a human
that's true.
being in the world, having human experiences, and go, yes, of course I wear this uniform, but that doesn't mean I'm not a human being, and I don't want to see you hurt, and I don't want to have this altercation because my life matters to me too. Like, I need more of this. But I feel like you made another really powerful point in we need to reach out and start taking the initiative to bridge this gap before the altercation,
Oh,
before
100%.
the things happen. But I kind of need the police to start that. You know what I'm saying? Like they're doing in other places right now. Like, wait, what was it? Camden again?
Camden,
Camden. Okay. And Denver. So I got this great shout out to my friend Jay who sent this to me. NPR. Denver was replacing police officers with mental health officers. And in 6 months, the team responded to 750 calls without one arrest.
Wow.
Okay. So 750 calls, not one arrest. And they went through some of the calls that they went to. I mean, there was like a homeless guy, no shoes, completely out of his mind. And like the mental health people addressed him and addressed the situation, right? So I think there's other ways we need to be doing that, but also we need police because you have a bad rep in a lot of neighborhoods.
You want to smile?
Yes, please.
We have that in this department too.
Wow.
We have that in this department too.
Well, I just also read
It's
another
Bronx,
article.
right?
All over.
Oh, okay.
All five
Okay.
boroughs throughout the whole department.
Wow.
It's a pilot program that's starting right now.
Okay.
Yes, I
okay.
It's a pilot program that's starting right now. But
so
yes.
I just read that the city will train specific mental health professionals to become part of the EMS teams normally dispatched through 911. And there's going to be a separate program from the mobile crisis teams in New York City.
Thank God.
So there's going to be, and there's a free mental health helpline. So under this pilot program, which you just mentioned, social workers will be added to EMS response teams.
Yes.
So this is huge. De Blasio just announced this, I think, a week or two ago.
But the fact that there were what? You said 700 calls,
750 calls,
0 arrests?
0 arrests.
That messes with the numbers. Aren't there still quotas? I mean, I know that's taboo, right? But there still have to be quotas because it messes with the numbers, and the numbers speak to accountability, and the accountability speaks to the regime, and the regime speaks to the mayor, right? So there's always an answer that goes all the way up. So what happens to the quotas when you spread the police force then by adding in these different types of people? Doesn't that mess things up? Aren't there policies?
Well, as far as the mental health people coming along, those typically aren't arrestable situations. Those are there to assist them in their mental health. And if things do get out of hand, officers are there. Officers will put the handcuffs on them just to restrain them, not to arrest them. So that's a totally different situation from arresting and summoning people.
Speaking to what you're saying, though, Lawrence, they're saying that the crisis-trained behavioral health clinicians, they're culturally aware of bias and racism. They're trained in that, so they can respond quickly, assess, de-escalate, treat, and assist in transporting a person to the correct level of care. And they're saying that this is going to help because black people are 2.5 times more likely to be shot and killed by police than their white counterparts. And black men ages 15 to 34 were 9 times more likely than other Americans to be killed by law enforcement officers. And so what they're saying is by training these mental health and crisis teams, that's going to help with the bias.
And I get that. I get all of that.
Right.
I just don't understand how that's going to translate into the numbers, right? Because the crime rate is one of the biggest barometers of police success, right? Even though those numbers get juked all the time, these numbers are super important. Those numbers go down, technically speaking, the crime rate goes up just because of the numbers, right? So what I'm saying is, as we implement these different programs, as we should, they are long overdue. How are police officers who are used to policing a certain way by just rounding people up and getting all these fines accrued, how now can they do their job in a way that seems efficient on paper?
Mm-hmm. Well, that right, like I said before, that right there is totally separate. Those that you're talking about, that those mental health clinicians will go to are mentally disturbed people.
So right, but you're saying, so now when this call happens, instead of the police getting the call, the EMS will get the call.
Correct.
And then the police will just play support.
Correct.
So that will change the numbers because this will take this category out.
Correct.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah, but but more often than not, that's not even an arrestable situation.
Right.
So,
but it can turn into
one.
But
it has been.
It
can turn into one if the person is violent.
Which is tough.
Out of 5, you might get 2 that might be violent. Maybe 1 that might be violent, but everybody needs to go to the hospital. But maybe 1 violent, and it depends on what they're doing. Now, everything doesn't fall on the police officers either, because why are you violent? You need to be in a position where you're taking your meds. If you're not taking your meds, then you might be out of whack and be unable to control your emotions and your aggressions. And then at that point, EMS is called. Police will respond. If officers see that you're still aggressive, depending on the circumstances, officers have to take action.
I think it's important, though, to point out that I think having someone on the scene who is a mental health crisis counselor or someone outside of a uniformed police officer who's trained in aggression and violence or handling aggression and violence is incredibly important.
Oh, 100%.
Because we're bringing a much more psychology-based, human experience-based, there's some level of, I feel like, compassion or empathy, like wanting to treat it instead of just put handcuffs on it or trigger it. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying?
Well, 100%.
So I feel like maybe that's like a good thing all around.
I'm happy for that because there is now a middleman.
Yes.
And it goes the same way. You know, when I first became a police officer, we had just the baton and a firearm. Mm-hmm. There was no middleman, which is now the taser. And I'm happy that there is now the taser. It's the middleman. Because if there's a situation, you're talking about going from less lethal to lethal.
Right.
And there's no in-between. So the in-between now actually resolves a lot of issues.
Are we going to get more in-between? Like, why don't we use more in-between, like even less lethals? Like, where are the rubber bullets? Why are those only for like riots?
Because of the circumstances.
Because you can never know what's coming back at you.
Correct. You know, like I said before, you know that any day that there might be a chance where your life is on the line, but you never know.
That's a non-negotiable.
What's going to happen.
Okay, let's talk about that because I don't know that we've sat, or at least I haven't, maybe you have, Lawrence, but like I haven't sat and spoken to someone directly like this. Like, you are human.
Yes.
Just because you have a uniform on doesn't mean you won't make mistakes.
100%.
So, and you can become very fearful.
Can I say something to that?
Please.
It's funny because I played basketball my whole entire life.
Are you any good?
Oh, very much so.
All right, we'll see.
Very much so.
We'll see.
Very much so.
Ask about me. Let's go. Let's talk.
I feel a one-on-one coming. I don't know. Are you a shooter?
Not with his big ass. I'm not guarding him
one-on-one. Yeah, because he doesn't like, no, but this, here, a little tip for you. He doesn't like to be touched
don't
at
touch
all.
me, bro.
Don't touch him.
Don't touch my body, bro.
Yeah, don't touch him. So just touch him a lot.
But
you're done. He's over.
My nickname is the trainer.
Okay.
I have a nickname. It's the
Okay.
trainer. Because when you face me, you're going to have to work out.
Oh!
You have to work for it.
God. We all see.
Yes, we are best
wait.
friends.
Yes.
I love you.
Yes.
I love you.
But
Okay. Yes.
I forgot my point. What you
The
want to say?
fear. Speak
The
to me about the
fear, yeah,
fear
the
and you
human.
being a human in the uniform, and because that's important. I feel like that you guys that gets taken out of the equation real
Oh
quick.
yes, I do remember I was about to say that.
Yeah.
I played basketball my whole entire life.
Yes.
So if we got some downtime and I see a couple kids playing basketball, I will go and I'll
Love
shoot
that.
and I'll play
Beautiful.
basketball with
Love
them.
It's
that.
beautiful.
I make a layup, and you know this. This is and you know this as well. It's the easiest shot in the world.
Yeah.
They losing their minds. Oh my God, officer!
Because
made a
you're
layup.
because you're in
But
a
you
uniform.
don't. But the point of that is that you only see me as an officer.
That's right.
Yeah.
And not an individual, not a human.
Human.
I've been doing this my whole entire life.
Yeah. And that's because a lot of these officers leave the neighborhood and they never come back for any other reason than to just police the neighborhood, right? And so they only see them as officers.
Hence
Right.
the community and events and education
Mm-hmm.
and building relationships. We need relationships.
But
people.
it has to go both
Both
ways.
ways,
It has to go
yes.
both ways. You know, just I could speak on a situation personally with my father. You know, my father and I don't have the best relationship because of his lifestyle and what he's done. Till this day, I'm a grown man. I'm 34 years old. Till this day, I still want that relationship with my father. So, yes, he might be hesitant or disagree or not want to reach out to me, but at my position, I still have to reach out to him if I want that relationship, whether he wants it or not, and it goes both ways. So with that being said, the community still needs to, hey, how you doing, officer? Or the officer needs to say, how you doing, community? It has to go both ways.
TJ, you
Yes.
don't even know.
What's that?
TJ, you don't even know.
That example was so.
TJ, you don't even know.
understand
Remember the beginning? Remember the beginning when I said like the universe
Yeah.
and everything? You just don't even know.
That was an interesting example.
This stuff happens. I swear.
Wow.
This stuff happens. I don't know what it is, but we get into these interview situations. And honestly, I swear to you, TJ, if you are open to
Yes.
receiving messages from the universe,
Yeah.
which I am, I truly feel that Lawrence and I are put in these situations
Oh,
for the
yeah.
universe to speak to us and to teach us very valuable lessons.
Yes.
Personally, together as a community, as for whoever's listening, for whoever we come across. And it's a back and forth. It's not just a selfish thing, but
Yes.
truly you have no idea. Some of the things that you are saying here are powerful beyond what you even can imagine.
I appreciate
Yeah, and
that.
we
Thank
we
you.
appreciate you.
I appreciate that.
I think we only have like 5 more minutes. Unfortunately, maybe 10. I do have another question.
I'm listening.
Are you when the training happens? Let's say the police academy, right? Before they get to you, the recruits, and they're just cadets. Are you specifically trained for the percentage of your job that is violent and that requires aggression, or are you trained in being personable, being social, being approachable, having conversations, communicating, de-escalating? Are you trained in de-escalation?
We are. Officers 100% are trained in de-escalation.
You see my face, right?
Yes, I see your face. Officers are. But you got to understand, it's a person-to-person thing. Everybody has different
Human.
nerves that tick differently.
Traumas,
So
As 100%,
preconditions.
yes.
do you undergo like a psychological evaluation before you get the job?
Yes, absolutely.
Word?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yes.
Something's
But
broken.
but no,
Something's broken.
broken, man.
But the thing about it is
Yeah.
that
It can be worked.
no, not even that. The thing about it, and we could talk about this all day because
yeah.
what I'm about to say is going to lead into something else.
Come on.
The thing about it is that the psychological test is only mandatory one time, and that's to get on the job. Now, my first day on the job, I might get into a shooting.
That's right.
All changes.
And
It's
then
over.
that would change
Trauma changes
everything.
everything.
Now I'm traumatized. Before I was completely good, but now I'm traumatized. It's the same thing for an officer. An officer has to train physically one time. And then once he get on the job, the man don't ever have to work out a day in his life.
No, that's
But my
not
thing,
good.
that's no good.
No
That's no
good.
good.
Wow.
I would change that. My thing is, I grew up a fighter. I'm not a professional fighter, but I grew up fighting all the time.
Scrapping.
I know how to fight.
Yeah.
I work out.
Yeah.
Every precinct has a gym in it.
Yep.
Every precinct has a gym in it. You would never know, but every precinct has a gym in it. If you are in the gym and you're working out, you are less likely to go to your baton, to go to your ass, to go to your gun, because I know how to handle myself.
Wow.
Because I know how to handle myself.
Mm-hmm.
I've been a police officer for almost a decade, and I've had to put my hands on maybe 3 people. And I had to pull my gun out one time.
Thankfully.
And that one time it was mandatory. But no. But there's other situations, like you said, de-escalation, where I de-escalated it, where it didn't get that part.
Thank you for that.
Well, also when you're in the gym, you're also managing stress.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? There's other benefits
Yes.
to having a release, to having something to channel aggression or stress or emotional, whatever it is that you're dealing with, right? Because let's go back to this again. You're a human being. You just happen to have a uniform on.
Yes. What I do affects other people.
That's right.
I call myself the mayor of police. I shake hands and kiss babies. I do all of that. There's no doubt, and there shouldn't be any doubt, that if we have to go to battle, I'm going to take care of myself. But that's the last resort.
Yes.
That's the last resort.
Yo,
Now, I told you.
Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
now,
you know.
Now, I told you my name. T.J. Jones.
T.J. Jones.
Envision it in your head. Jones. Jones. I go there. I shake your hand. You say, how you doing, Officer Jones? I said, no, my name, you mispronounced my name. My name is J. Ones. Get it? My name is J. Ones. You get it?
Yeah.
So I done opened the door right there for
Yeah.
communication. The lines are open.
Yeah.
You get what I'm
I
saying?
like it.
I built that trust off the bat.
I like it.
So it's the officer's approach and what he wants to get out of the call, what's he want to get out of the job.
Again, which is a human, like you can be in a bad mood.
Oh,
And you can
100%.
show up pissed off.
I've
And then, you know what I'm saying? Like,
I'm not perfect. I've had bad days where I was like, listen,
all do.
I'm going to let my partner take over because
right.
I'm not.
But TJ, you're doing something though that seems like a lot of other officers may not be doing. You're taking accountability for yourself. You're managing yourself.
But that's what I want to ask. You're managing yourself, the accountability for yourself. Who is evaluating you in terms of how well you do your job? Like I know when I was in charter school, we'd get evaluations once every 2 weeks. They'd observe us. Is anyone observing you and doing evaluations? Does that happen?
It does. It does.
Just not often.
But it happens. It
Okay.
happens. Officers get evaluated quarterly and yearly. Officers get evaluated quarterly and yearly. It's a questionnaire. You just have to fill out, the questionnaire. What is the questionnaire?
They don't like ride along and watch you in action?
No. But if you're talking about paperwork, the paperwork that you turn in, how professional it is, how the timely manner that you do it in, that's one questionnaire, your paperwork. Another one is how you get along with your peers. Another one is how you get along with your supervisor. Another one is how you get along with the community. So there is integrity as well. So there is a questionnaire where supervisors monitor you, and they'll score you based on that.
How do they measure that, though? How do they measure how well you do with the community if they can't witness it?
They can, because they can hear as well. Word gets around. My mentor told me, whenever you go to the scene, I don't care if it's 20 officers there and there's one person there, you want to be the one officer out of 20 that they talk to. And you know how many times that has happened to me? Because I extend myself. And supervisors, they might not tell you directly, but they see that and they witness that. I'm nowhere near perfect. I make my mistakes.
Yes, sir.
But I'm knowledgeable of the mistakes, and I always try to work on them. You got to understand in life that the more you talk, you're speaking about what you already know. So sometimes you have to sit back and listen, and then you'll learn something brand new.
Amen.
You are
preaching.
you are not only a gift to Beyond the Journal and all of our beautiful supporters who are definitely tuning in to check this episode out specifically. You are a gift to our communities. You are a gift to your children. You are a gift to young black men. You are a gift to young people in general. Listening to you, grilling you, talking to you, the admiration has just elevated over and over. And I am beside myself with confusion, which is a compliment to you.
Okay.
Because there was so much animosity coming into this interview. And there's so much animosity I have towards the badge. I have animosity that dates back to policy officers, slavery, right? I'm a history teacher, a history buff. I've studied the history of police officers in this country.
Okay.
I have sheer hatred that I'm now confused about. Because if you're on the force, how can I say all police officers are bad, right? And so I want to not only compliment you, but thank you. And in that thank you and compliment, I hope you feel even more encouraged to be as brave as you've been, because everything you've done has required bravery.
Yes, I appreciate that.
You are one in a million, and you are a gold mine to us and anyone who encounters you, and I appreciate you.
I thank you. I greatly appreciate that. And it's just regular life, the bad overrides the good. There are other good officers out there, but the bad overrides the good. You get into a relationship, boyfriend, girlfriend, and you have a successful relationship for 10 years. Once a person cheats, that ruins the whole entire thing.
Right.
So it's the same thing here.
You're right.
Bad officers override the good officers. There are good officers. You have 40,000 or so. Everybody can't be bad.
Yeah, I've heard that before.
Everybody can't be bad.
Listen, you're proof. So if you need proof, you hit up TJ.
Yes.
I believe in you, TJ,
Yes,
and
I
I really I didn't know you at all.
Yes, yes.
I mean, we had that one encounter
Yes.
a few weeks ago, but I really enjoyed this conversation. You
I did too.
are
Yeah, it was
special.
good. Yeah, this is
You
good.
are
This is
special, and I.
Why do we need time, man? I wish we can go longer.
I know.
You are not the only one.
Yeah, seriously. No, but honestly, I really am so glad that you're speaking your truth and you're sharing it, because I really feel like this is exactly what we need. We need more people to step into the light and share their truth and you're so great, because you're like, I make my mistakes, I mess up too, but I'm here to
100%.
learn, I'm here to listen,
100%.
I'm here to work, I'm here to do this. And that's really truly I think that's our theme at the end of the day, really, where we kind of land in every episode, and everything we do is like, we're students of life, and we're really here trying to just do better and be better and connect with others who are doing the same, so we can try to be the change,
Yes,
right? And you're doing that. You're a living example of that, and you're doing it in a uniform. So, and I know that can be incredibly scary and fearful at times for you. So thank you for your service, and thank you for being a good human while doing it, and inspiring others to hopefully do the same.
Thank you. My mother always told me to treat people the way you want to be treated.
That's right.
And I live by that wholeheartedly. So when I do go out and patrol the streets, I'm thinking about it on the other side.
Yes, sir.
How would I want an officer to treat me? Or if this is my family member, this is my brother, my cousin, my sister, my mother, anybody.
Somebody.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right.
So treat people the way you want to be treated.
Yes, sir. Can you, where can they find you? You don't necessarily have to put your online handle, but you can tell us about your podcast, please.
Yes.
Please.
Yes, I have a podcast myself. It's called Inside Men.
Yes, sir.
Basically, it's three men giving their perspective on our acronym of MEN, which is music, entertainment, and news.
Thank you.
We have episodes. We're on Spotify and Apple as well.
There you go.
And we have episodes posted every Monday.
Check him out, please. Check them out. Definitely. So I guess we're coming to the end of our show. This is sad for me.
I've never really gotten like super emotional on a show before, and I feel really emotional right now. Like
In a good way?
Like I'm holding back tears, but
Really?
no, but like this was like super powerful. I think
important.
you said like a lot of really important things, and it also, you're like a living example of something that I believe in so much and I seek out so much, and to have you sit here and like speak it without even knowing who we are or what we do or what we stand for, it just is another sign for me, like, to believe in the light and to really trust in this process, and that there is good. That there really is good out there, and we just need to keep highlighting it.
Yes, indeed.
So thank you so much.
You showed up like
welcome.
you've been here, bro.
Yes, and I will. If you guys have me again, I'll definitely be back. I have no problem.
Would
coming
love
back.
that.
Yes.
TJ, there are plans. There are plans for you. There
Yes,
are
yes.
We
plans
gotta talk
even beyond.
basketball. We gotta talk basketball now.
We got a show where we could bring you on for
I
basketball.
have to.
Please.
Before we wrap it up, can we just skip the basketball?
Yeah, go for it.
I want to give you a shout out, man.
Really?
Yes, because I saw your Instagram post, man. Melo's my favorite player, man.
Oh, I love that you shook his hand first. I love that you shook his hand first too. Like, like, yeah, let me show you some
Melo's my
love.
favorite
Fired.
player.
He is a hater.
Oh,
Hater.
man.
He's a hater?
He's such a
Nah,
hater.
listen.
I thought that you liked him
I'm-
because of.
No,
I'm motivating him. All right.
no, he's a liar. He
Melo's
hates him.
Melo's game did not transition well, and I motivated him. I feel like his game has
He
transitioned
doesn't
now because of me.
No, and he doesn't think it should be in the Hall of Fame ever.
Are you kidding me?
Listen.
No, I'm not kidding you. He
That's
said
all
it.
for our
we
show
have it on
today,
an episode. I'm gonna send you the episode. He
Okay.
said it loud and clear. Do you know how
This
many?
ain't about
Do you
me.
know how many DMs I have to field because this dude doesn't like Melo? Like, contact him.
Listen.
please leave me alone. So that's great that
Interesting.
you like Melo. So
Yes.
are you a Knicks fan?
I'm a diehard Knicks fan.
Okay, so you're feeling
I'm
yourself
a
right
diehard
now.
Knicks
We
fan.
were doing so well.
I'm a
Oh my
diehard
God,
Knicks fan.
TJ, I love you even more.
I'm a
I love
diehard
you
Knicks
even
fan.
more.
Are we serious? Is this really happening?
This is
Yes.
this is so perfect. See,
This is a terrible way to go out on the show.
This
Like,
is
the
perfect
worst
way.
way to end the show, bro.
This
You a
is
Knicks
a
fan?
perfect
I'm
way.
a diehard.
I feel sorry. You
Can I
want a
tell you
hug?
something?
I feel sorry for you, man.
Can I tell you something?
What's up?
Stay mellow.
He winked,
No,
y'all.
he didn't
wink
He
at me.
winked,
Stay
Mr.
mellow.
Lawrence.
Ladies and
He
gentlemen,
winked.
Officer TJ Jones. I hope at home you're giving him a round of applause. And if there were any questions we missed, please believe this is not going to be his last time on the show. We will have him back on to talk much more basketball, and we'll talk some more policing because I think this conversation is just the beginning. I think there's much more to bridging the gap between the community and the police, and I think there should be no gap. With that said, thank you all for joining us, and we will go out with a quote. Do you mind if I read it? All right. So I wrote this in light of what we were going to discuss. It says, I want to go home at night. They want to go home at night, speaking of the police. And we all want to feel safe when we get there to rest. If we can start there, I think we can find a solution to any problems between us. Or at least we can find the actual causes and stop speculating on opposing sides. I'm still a believer. And I feel like this was the start of exactly that. I appreciate you.
Respect.
Ladies and gentlemen, for Erin and Lawrence and our guest, TJ Jones, this was another episode of Beyond the Journal. Tune in next time.